Welcome to the conversation. I'm Paul Grondahl, the director of the New York State Writers Institute. We're really excited about today's guest, a soul singer songwriter, Professor Buggy Jive Thomas. Welcome to the conversation, Bryan.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So you did a great panel, The Art of Songwriting at the Writers Institute last year, you and Michael Eck and Tainia Asili, and a great sadness for all of us. Greg Haymes was going to be on that panel and he passed away. We were all very close to Greg, but it was a really interesting panel and all of you performed at the end of it. But out of all those songwriters, you strike me as so literary, and I know you've been dubbed by one critic at least like the literary Lenny Kravitz. You were a lit major, right? Tell me about how you're so deeply read in a wide range of literary masters.
Yeah, I've been reading, it feels like my whole life. I think I could read when I was 2, according to the legend of my parents. And I wrote my first short story when I was 4. It was called The Exorcist.
You were a prodigy.
I was a plagiarist, basically, is what I was. But my mom had the book, and I knew my parents had seen the movie, and I asked her about it, and she gave me like the watered down version of the story. I was like, the devil was inside a little girl. Amazing. So it was like I had like construction paper, and I had like red construction paper to make the devil, and then he jumped out of a girl. So it was like,
cool.
I can't find it anywhere, but it's and I know I misspelled exorcist, but
that's
what I remember, the devil and misspelling exorcist.
That's a wonderful debut. So we are in this strange, surreal time of the coronavirus pandemic. And I was just thinking, if any musician and artist is prepared for this, I mean, you love your basement bunker. You talk about how you're the bunker artist in a way. What's it been like for you quarantine? It's not a laughing matter, but
yeah,
it's a weird time, but you're used to being solo, right?
It is. I mean, I made the joke, as one can joke in dark times, that I was doing live stream social distance concerts, way back in 2018 when I did like a little fake concert from my basement. Right. That I pretended was streaming live, even though it wasn't really, but I had it set up to kind of debut and everything. And I had like a fake audience, like in the studio on the wall. So yeah, I've always felt comfortable, at least when it comes to music. I feel like I'm more comfortable working by myself than I am with other people, which it's kind of, in some ways it's disappointing to me, because I always have friends and fellow musicians saying, oh, we should collaborate and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't.
We got technical difficulties here, Bryan. You froze up.
So did I freeze?
Yeah, now it unfroze. Sorry about that. Could you
no.
That?
I'm like, you're just I'm like, did I say something wrong? Okay.
I couldn't hear what you were saying, how you often ask to be collaborative, but you like to really be solo and often,
it feels like a failure as a musician not to feel more of a sense of wanting to be collaborative with other folks. And I was in bands in high school and college. I had a little bit of a band, like at the turn of the century, so to speak, with a couple friends, but they abandoned me for better projects. And so I don't know, it's just easier to do it myself.
Yeah,
it's more efficient, especially as the type of artist who has a day job. Most of my creative time is like 3 a.m. It's like, I'm not Prince. I can't just call up Susan Rogers and say, hey, come to the studio. I need you to work on something for me.
Exactly. So this quarantine, how has it changed? So it seems like, at least artistically and making music, you've done it, socially distanced, as you say, but your day job and your life in general, you find like this is really weighing on you? Is it freaking you out? Is it making you worried?
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying I'm on the COVID diet because I was so worried, especially in those initial weeks when, I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns, but it was really depressing watching the numbers rise like they were at the initial stages. And I was just, I couldn't eat. I was losing weight. Um, being able to telecommute and work from home, it was actually a happy distraction because in some ways I was busier than I would have been, if it was the normal course of, the day in the office. And that was always busy enough. So that actually helped to provide a distraction. And I don't know. Having the family here is helpful too, and they're all busy. The two kids are, one in high school, one in middle school. They're doing their schoolwork and they're online doing their classes and such. And my wife has taken over the dining room. That's her office, and I bounce between the family room and the backyard. Now the weather's better, I can bring the laptop out on the patio.
Yeah.
But it's like it's been a happy distraction, and like for whatever reason, like there's like an emptiness when it's like I think I feel the art a little too much. Like when I see my friends live streaming, or a favorite artist will be online and live streaming, and like a lot of it is beautiful. I mean, the last thing I kind of watched was Ricky Lee Jones did a live stream, and it was beautiful, but there was just like this. The foundation of it was a sadness that she was sitting at home, and it's like we're making that connection, but just knowing, how this all came to be, it's like there's ultimately a huge sadness. And she's, live streaming from New Orleans, which was kind of ground zero for the South in terms of a lot of so, it's a mix of being grateful and being worried and being sad, seeing, I don't know. It's rough. Yeah.
How about creatively? I mean, some of your songs are very political and pointed, and I'm wondering, COVID-19 is disproportionately hitting African American community, Latino communities, low wage worker communities, and I know that some of your songs have addressed, social issues and disparities. Are you feeling moved at all to write something about this pandemic?
Yeah, I almost feel like it's too soon. I need a little distance. It's a little raw right now. The one thing I came up with was more about, I mean, now that I think about it, I guess it was about needing, both the distance of time and just feeling like anything I come up with now is like, it almost feels like it's in vain to like, like friends were asking me, when are you going to do a live stream? When are you going to go? It just feels so personally, and I applaud like all my friends and everybody else who's out there and is doing it and is providing hope and a distraction and, some amazing music that is going on. But from a personal level, it just feels a little empty right now certainly to perform live over the internet, but even creatively, like the song that I wrote most recently was just about like the emptiness that I would feel if I was trying to write a song and, perform over the internet about the crisis.
Is that the reach?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to, are you prepared to play a little bit of something? I don't know if you want to play that or something else you're feeling.
Speaking of the emptiness of singing into a live stream, why don't you sing into the live stream now, Bryan?
This is recorded. We're not live. So.
True. Yeah.
You don't have to though. Let me also ask if you want to
yeah.
think about what you want to play. You were a literature major at Middlebury College, and I've seen references, particularly in your "Stole My Stealing" from Eliot, that beautiful, really incredible visual story with T.S. Eliot and so many literary references. But I see often Ralph Ellison, Toni Morrison, Joan Didion, James Baldwin. Who am I missing? And are you reading them now, rereading them, or reading during this?
A lot of times it's rereading.
Yeah.
I'll get an idea for a song, and then it'll remind me of like a line or something from one of those masters. And then, I ruin their work by inserting it into what I'm working on somehow. But yeah, but a lot of times it's more about it, just like the last song I mentioned. A lot of time it's more about the creative process, or as much about the creative process as it is about the themes that they're actually addressing. I mean, Eliot's a good example because, I like to say he stole everything. Like every line in The Wasteland has a footnote from where he stole it. So if he can do it, I can do it, So it's like, he was the original sampler, right? So yeah.
So you grew up in the area, and Toni Morrison was on our campus. I actually interviewed her when I was a reporter at the Times-Union. We just did a wonderful tribute to her on campus, and we still have her chair and her desk and other artifacts. Did you ever see her when she was at UAlbany? Or
I did not see her when she was at UAlbany. I did. It was in 2015. I saw her in New York, being interviewed by Hilton Knowles for the New Yorker Festival.
Yeah.
And I bumped into her in the lobby.
Really?
I left my seat to go to the bathroom before the show started, and I ran back in. And like I was so focused on the people at the door and making sure I had my ticket to get back in that I didn't see her in her wheelchair because she was down a bit, and I just kind of bumped into it, and I was like, oh no, and I was like horrified, and she just smiled, and I was like, and I gave a little, I didn't even say anything. I was just like,
nice.
what a breath. Yeah. So that was my Toni Morrison moment. But there were like even that night, like she earlier we were talking about Joni Mitchell, and I love hearing interviews with Joni because she speaks in poetry. It's like she's got just these little lovely, and Toni was the same way. And like I was writing things down as she was being interviewed, like some of the things she was saying, and ideas in my head and humming a song, the beginnings of a song, as I was leaving, just from all the she speaks in poetry, let alone writes in poetry.
The two documentaries, we screened the documentary Pieces I Am. Did you see that about? Yeah. Brilliant, I thought. And then have you seen the new Joan Didion documentary on Netflix?
Yeah, that was the one her nephew did.
Yeah, it's not new, but I just saw it a few weeks ago. I thought that was
really, really good. Yeah, and like before I finished watching it, I had an idea for a song. Like it was like I stopped watching it, like jotted down some notes, and then went back to it, and then that was and again, it was her talking about her creative process,
right?
And how she comes up with stuff, and that was and I was bumping that against like the rules I have in my own head about what's good writing and what is for myself and my own standards. So again, taking the ideas of a master and ruining them
The
for my
mashup,
own purposes.
the mixtape mashup sampling version. Another documentary I watched, again, I've been watching movies and documentaries. I'm
Yeah,
sure you have too. I'm not like a series binge watcher, so
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to commit to 36 episodes or whatever. But
I
this,
can't do it. Yeah,
yeah, my wife
same
was like, "You
way.
got to watch some of these series." Like, I don't want to commit to 48 hours of, you know.
It's too
Uh,
much.
um, that documentary called, I think it's In the Canyon, on all those songwriters. That have you seen that?
I have, and there's another one. They're two like competing Laurel Canyon documentaries. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, I didn't know that there was a second one. Yeah,
I think there's another one that's coming out in a month or so.
yeah.
But
This
yeah,
one
what
was
was
by
that?
Jakob Dylan.
Yeah,
Was
yeah. I saw that. I saw
I
that.
thought that was really good.
That was. It's just amazing, like how all those people just kind of bumped
Right.
into each other
Right.
and just kind of changed everything in their own way. You know.
So we were both huge Joni Mitchell fans, and can you talk about this great opportunity you had at an anniversary concert? That must have been.
I I I had not even heard about it. Like it was still kind of secret. And I've been this is so nerdy, but like one of the first like email lists that I subscribed to, and I don't know how when I was first getting into Joni, it was actually after college and after years of hearing Prince talking her up in both in interviews and in song. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a deep dive. And once I did, I was like all in, but I was also on this burgeoning thing called the World Wide Web and trying to figure out more about her. You know, there was no Wikipedia that I could. And I stumbled on this mailing list that was started by some guy in Colorado who wanted to talk about Joni Mitchell to people. And, you know, here we are 25 some years later, and he's running jonimitchell.com. And like a lot of the people who were involved in that list are now like running her fan site.
Mhm.
So I got an email like the night before tickets went on sale from a friend. He's like, no one knows this yet, but the tickets are on sale now. We're all going to meet for it's over 2 nights. We're all going to meet. So go grab a ticket. We're going to be up in the balcony. And I immediately, like I didn't look at the calendar or anything. I just knew it was going to be a great time hanging out with friends and seeing, all these people doing a tribute to Joni songs, if not Joni singing herself. And yeah, it was amazing. It was Brian Blade
Mhm.
was the musical director, and he is uh, like I love his work, and so it was almost like seeing a Brian Blade show, and you happen to have him doing Joni Mitchell songs. So I was all in, and it was amazing. And plus, she had made a couple public appearances since her brain aneurysm, um, but not really, not really a lot. So the buzz in the room and just like there wasn't a dry eye in the house when she walked in. Everyone was just, and we sang happy birthday to her. It was really amazing to see and to be there, and to be there with all these friends that I've known for so long.
That's
That was
cool.
cool
Did,
too.
did
Yeah.
that spark a song or the start of a song? Or
Did I get anything I don't think, I don't think I did. I couldn't be bothered. No, I don't.
but you
uh,
you sampled Joni before. I mean, I know your
mm,
songs has had Joni references and things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what uh yeah, I don't think I did. I just,
So influences, you on your own website, I know you mentioned Zeppelin. I mean, it's such a wide range. Prince, obviously.
mm,
Certain of your songs, like the Eliot song, I think of Frank Zappa because I grew up on Frank Zappa. The sort of story, really complex, layered, really erudite and witty, but what other influences do you still find in your music? And
yeah, that's a good question, because like a coworker of mine is always foisting his latest musical obsessions on me, and I I feel bad, but I don't listen to music as much as I used to. Um, so like, but back in the day, it was definitely Prince. It was Pink Floyd. It was Led Zeppelin. Um, there was, hip hop once that hit, even though that wasn't something that a lot of people in my school listened to. Until the Beastie Boys came along. Then suddenly it was cool for some reason.
yeah,
That's untalented, and they rap and they sample and they can't even sing. Hey, the Beastie Boys. Now that I can.
those
For
Long Island boys.
some reason,
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Beasties, but it was interesting to watch. But yeah, and like I said, I didn't really. I'm glad I waited to discover Joni, because I don't think I was ready for her in high school.
Yeah,
I needed to live a little more before I could and understand a little more about what goes into a song.
right.
Back then my songs were like a mix between like jokey stuff and trying to be funkier than I am, or trying to be harder rocking than I am. But it's like, between Prince and Joni, they really helped me figure out who I was as a musician and what kind of songs I wanted to make.
Yeah, that's why it seems like the basement and you with your mixing board and things is the perfect place, because I get a sense like you must tinker and revise endlessly and constantly. I mean, is it really, it almost seems like a chemistry to me. How many times are you going through these songs before you put something up on Instagram or on YouTube?
Most of it is the song happens pretty quickly. It's the mixing part. It's like
Yeah, I mean, it's
polishing the turd is what, and I love it and I love getting into it, but because it's amazing what you can do in your basement now with, and you don't even need hardware. Like the plugins now are just amazing, and for compressors and EQ and reverbs and such. But it's still an art, and you're always learning, and your ears are always learning. The last project I did, I wrote a song. I stole the lyrics from Ian Forster. We have a theme.
yes.
But it was January 1st, and I saw an article saying that A Passage to India had gone into the public domain because it was 75 years or whatever it is.
Right.
And I was like, I always liked the last page to Passage to India. And I had a melody in my head, and I was like, let's do it.
Nice.
So I wrote the song and I recorded it, and it all happened really quickly. And then I was thinking, I had another idea in my head for like an electric piano part, but it didn't really fit. So I was like, why don't I just do a whole different version? So I imported the vocal track and set the tempo the same and just tried it with, completely different instrumentations and arrangement. And I was like, what about an acoustic version?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, what about a rock version with heavier guitars? So it turned into a project with 6 different versions of the same song.
100 voices, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's one version where I literally track 100 voices for a big chorus effect. I figure I had to.
Yes.
It allowed me to have one extra version. But and song, it was as much about the process as it was about the themes in the song, which are kind of intense. But
I heard you mention twice that you hear the melody or the music. Is it always the same? Is that how songs start? Or sometimes you go right to the notebook and start writing lyrics? Or
it always starts with the I mean, sometimes I'll think of a line in my head and I'll write it down, so I've got that as something to go to, but usually the impetus is the music. And it's so weird because I feel like one of the few people who cares about the lyrics. Like a good groove or a good song with hokey lyrics is poison to me. But said the guy who comes up with a lot of hokey lyrics. But my point, and I do have one.
But you always hear the music first, you said, generally. And
yeah, and the songwriters that I tend to respect and admire the most, that's usually the way they do it. They come up with, they're letting, their unconscious brain fumble around a guitar, and they come up with, most of the songs I write start with a mistake. I play a chord some wrong way or some different way, and then from that energy, I try to put a melody over it, and then I try to find some lyrics that match the inspiration.
And are you classically trained? Do you read and write music, or you just do it all by ear? Or
it's primarily by ear. I mean, my dad bought me a little toy organ when I was in first grade for Christmas. And I had the little book, notes on the, so I taught myself songs in the book, like Joshua Fit the Battle of Jericho, and what else was in that book? That was my favorite because it was in a minor key. And then I got more of a real organ when I was in third grade, and I had lessons for a couple years, but I really didn't practice. I could kind of, I was okay at reading. When my daughter took piano lessons, I had to, get my reading chops back up to help her learn.
What was your first guitar? Tell me that story.
Oh, that's funny. A friend down the street's dad had an acoustic guitar, and for whatever reason, he brought it to my house and left it at my house for 8 months. So 90% of what I know about guitar is me just messing around with that guitar in 8th grade. And it wasn't even mine. And then there was a drummer in our band who had a guitar. Oh, that's the guitar. That guitar right there, which
Nice.
looks like a Jimmy Page Gibson Sunburst, but it's a global, which I think Sears made. So it's unplayable, but that's the guitar that I had in my house for years. And then one night, I think we saw the Neighborhoods at RPI, and I was in college at the time, but I was hanging out with some high school friends in town. I think it was during the summer. It was 4th of July, and I came home and everybody was asleep, and I was like, I was so moved by seeing the Neighborhoods. I was like, I gotta figure out once and for all how to conquer. So I wove a sock through the strings so as not to wake up anybody in the house, and I started to woodshed, and that was kind of when I made my transition from a keyboard player in cover bands to a guitar guy who writes songs. And then I bought an acoustic and a better electric, and the rest is history.
So your guitar of choice now is a Fender Telecaster? Is that what you play? Or
I have a Telecaster. Can I?
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Without knocking anything over.
See what you got in the undisclosed basement location.
So this is it's a Fender Telecaster. I think it's a reissue from like a 72. It's got the thin line, so it's got the left hole right there. And it's got humbuckers, which I resisted for the longest time, but it's like, because I don't play with a pick, it really helps when I'm playing, especially more aggressively, because I can get louder, and especially on solo and stuff. But so
Are you are you a collector too? How many guitars do you think you own now? How many does your wife allow you to own?
Yeah, I'm no Mike Eck.
That's true.
Man, he's got a lot of guitars. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably like around 10. Like 3 of them are basses. Oh, yeah, there's a couple, well, maybe like 12. Yeah. Like, God, I don't think of myself as someone who has a lot of guitars, but that's not like a modest amount.
Do you have more guitars or more pairs of shoes? That's a good.
I have more shoes. I just bought a lot of shoes.
I have fewer than 12 pairs of shoes, and I have 0 guitars. So
I realized I had not bought shoes in like 8 years, and then I went a little crazy. But it was in January. This was like pre madness.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I need, these shoes are falling apart. I need to, upgrade. But it was sneakers, it was boots, it was, so it was a little bit everything.
Right.
But yeah, my shoes were falling apart. So now I guess I do have a lot of shoes now.
So when you're doing these really complex 360, these kind of home concerts and your YouTube, you're doing it all with sort of off the shelf apps and things. You don't really have high tech studio equipment, or?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, now you have access to what the pros are using, really. So it's I mean, I use Final Cut Pro for video. That's like a couple $100.
Right.
I remember back in my days working at WMHT when they first brought in an Avid suite, and I think it was it Mike Melito was showing. He's like, you are not going to believe this. He's like, non-linear editing. It's like, look, I can jump right there. He's like, this is. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, no more tape, no more rewind. And I just thinking about what that, demo unit that was, in this side office cost, that was blowing everyone's minds. And now it's like, it's on my phone.
Yeah.
Like we've all got it in our pocket at, much better than that unit was back then. But so yeah, GoPro tools and Final Cut Pro. I use Logic for audio. And sometimes the stuff I'm trying to do can test the boundaries of of my laptop. Like the 360 video, that was a lot of bandwidth, because I had to edit together 4 different videos of my and make it all sync. And one of those videos is 4K on its own, and then you have to grind them together, so you're talking 16K for 4 different Bryans.
Right.
And that took a little bit to export. And some of the cartoon stuff I used to do, it would take like hours to crunch a couple seconds of video to convert it, to rotoscope it and to convert it into a cartoon.
Right.
But now that's like built into Final Cut. Like the last video I did, I just used the built-in Final Cut plugin with a couple tweaks to make it a little more, seem a little more like it was drawn animation.
Right.
I was just, dumbing down the video and the frame rate or whatever. But it's getting so much easier to do, quasi pro level looking stuff.
How did you and when did you come up with the Professor Buggy Jive persona?
That's a good question. You know Bernie Mulligan?
Yeah.
He and a friend had come back from a a music festival in Iceland, and I forget what it's called. And he's like, "Oh, you should try to get in." He's like, "It's like South by Southwest, but it's in Iceland." And it's like, it's like, you would look like a blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, I would do it, but I feel like I need to like you go to those festivals now for the application, and a lot of it is based on how much social media juice you have."
Right.
And I had to come up with some explanation of having, only a couple hundred followers on my Facebook page and my Twitter. So I was like, what I'll do is I'll just start all over. I'll just clean the slate. I'll just say I'm this guy in his basement, which is, it's all true.
It is true.
But the little guy who doesn't like to leave his basement, but he's Albany's best kept secret.
Yes.
And so that kind of started the energy. Plus there was, I do like to have like a separation between my work life and my music life, so that there was some incentive there to be able to be out on social media without, having the same name that's attached to me when I'm, sending out newsletters and stuff.
Right.
So there was some of that incentive too. It's harder to do here in Albany to manage the two, after X number of years of being Bryan Thomas to everybody. I'm like, where did Bryan Thomas go? Well, now he's doing the Buggy Jive thing. What's that?
I like calling you doctor too. I know you got your PhD in musicology, man. But my question, you're obviously a deep thinker, well-read. You blend these literary references. Your lyrics are really complex and interesting, and you've got the musical chops, and now you add the technology. But what measures success for you? You have a wonderful family. You have a nice day job. You don't really have to go out and crush it with this or earn money. What's your measure of success, and what's your, do you want to be a YouTube star or something? Or
I mean, I would love to, get a little more recognition, maybe actually sell a CD one day. I don't know, but it is even when I was in college and was in bands and was thinking about like, how is music going to work for me once I'm out of this, this Eden state where, I just make music on weekends with friends, and how am I going to figure out a way to incorporate music into my life? And I always pictured being just maybe like a weekend warrior who would, work all week, but play in local clubs on the weekend. I pictured going more, I think I pictured more in like a quieter, maybe a jazzier direction. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
Until I started getting a little more serious about the songwriting. And yeah, it would be great if there was more of an audience out there for what I do. But I also love the idea that I can just create and put it up there and, throw some Facebook pocket change at it, so, more people can become aware of it. As much as I, don't really like the idea of throwing more money at Mr. Zuckerberg and his friend.
Right.
It is like, to me, it's like back in the day when you had a gig, you would flyer and you would, you go to Kinko's and print out a bunch of posters and had your mailing list, and you had to buy stamps for the mailing list. And it's about the same money to raise awareness online now. And the kind of targeting you can do is kind of amazing. You can really find out, like-minded folks, both locally and, really all over the world. So that's been kind of nice. And now I have 5 times the followers on the Buggy Jive page that I had with little trifling Bryan Thomas, whoever he is.
I'm a follower. I've bought your CDs, man. This could be your big breakthrough on the conversation. You know, maybe we're just gonna blow the numbers.
This is it, man.
We're gonna blow the numbers right off the roof here.
But it is a freedom in like not having to worry about like topping my last album and you know pleasing the record company and you know drawing audiences. Oh my God, it's nice to have that freedom to just create,
right?
But it's balanced with like this. It'd be nice if I could just create.
Yeah, I think you have the formula right, though. I so many students that I work with, you know, and I know really talented creative people. You're one of them. I say, like, you know, get a job, get a solid paycheck, and then create your art, and maybe it'll break through. But I know a lot of freelancers who were struggling before, and this pandemic has just wiped them out, you know. And I do think there's something to be said with a stable job and things, and trying to rely on your artistry and creativity is always dicey. I'm thinking of Herman Melville, man. He was not recognized, and Moby Dick was panned and didn't sell, and he never really saw that he became a literary icon. And
there are a lot of those. Yeah.
But do you want to jam a little bit, or can you show us your toys?
I don't know if I can.
Maybe you're not set up.
It's more about what's on the walls and the toy.
Yeah, what have you got on?
I got a signed Joni Mitchell songbook.
Wow.
I don't know. You know, just
that's cool. Did you ever get to play or open for any of your idols or with or anything?
I got to open for Nona Hendrix in Schenectady. That was kind of cool.
Wow, that's cool.
We haven't played together, although we've threatened to. But Stu and the Negro Problem fame.
I don't know.
I've hung out with a couple times. I don't know. Have you seen the Broadway or heard of the Broadway show Passing Strange?
Yeah.
It's I saw that and it like I was blown away, and I saw so much of myself in that, and we have a mutual friend in Mac McCarthy, so we've hung out a couple times and
nice
shop and had fun. Who I got now? You know, here and there. I know I'm forgetting someone. Yeah.
That's cool though. But anyway, those are I can't really zoom in. Memorabilia on the wall, huh?
Yeah, like album covers, and I have a $6 Million Man lunchbox.
Nice. Are you like soundproofed in there? Or are you still putting a sock in the?
No. That's one of the things about. That's why I can record a song in a couple hours, but then spend forever trying to. It's a lot of close miking and. Yeah, but it never gets really all that loud in the house, and a lot of times what I'm doing is through headphones anyway. I mean, I don't even turn on amps anymore because all the amps are built into the computer, you know.
Huh.
So it's it really is it's kind of amazing in that respect. Yeah, I can be quiet.
Nice.
Except when I'm singing, then it's loud, but they sleep like stones anyway.
When you were recording the Eliot Stole My Stealing, and you're walking through crowds in Albany and the Louvre, and were you just like lip syncing, and later were you actually singing on location in certain places when people are walking by you and everything? And
I was lip syncing. I was I mean, I might have been like letting I should go back to that footage and kind of see what it looks like.
A few times people kind of turn and look at you. That's why I wasn't sure.
There was one woman in front of was it in front of Venus de Milo, and she was just like not having it. I felt bad. Yeah. I didn't put her in the video because she gave me the dirtiest look, and I felt bad.
Are you
I didn't want to invade her privacy. Yeah. I, you know, when I wrote the song and I incorporated a whole thing about the Louvre in the song, because as I was writing it, Beyonce and Jay-Z released the can I say this? The
Yes.
ape shit video?
Yes.
Um and of course, you know, they have a little bit of pull, so they were able to empty the Louvre and, you know, stand there with Mona Lisa all by themselves. But it was like exactly what I was writing about, like hip hop culture bumping up against European, you know, art tradition and art history. And it was exactly what I was writing about, was like, you know, am I allowed to steal from T.S. Eliot the way he stole from Dante and Milton and everybody else? And that was, you know, what the whole song was about. So, you know, I threw in a throwaway line about the Louvre. And then, you know, like a couple weeks later, we'd been talking about, I thought we were going to go on a cruise for vacation. I'm like, why don't we just go to London? Yeah, it's like there. You know, we were talking about all the things we could do. I was like, you know, we could even, now that they have the channel thing, we could even take a day trip to Paris. I was like, you know what? Here's what I could do. I could bring my GoPro and a selfie stick, and
Yes.
you know, we're outside the Louvre on the plaza. I could like be outside the Louvre, and that'll be that one shot of me going, "I'll open your Louvre." Blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, let's go to Europe for vacation. And you know, we were on a tour, and the bus pulled in underground, so there was no way to get in front of the big IMP triangle. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? And then at a certain point, you know, we're on our tour with our guide, and she's talking about, you know, these amazing paintings I've waited my whole life to see in person. And I'm like, you know, all these people we were making friends with on the train over, and I'm just going to have to walk away right now and just start talking to myself or singing to myself, as it were. I'm like, I feel so stupid, and maybe some guard is going to say no selfie sticks or whatever, but I'm like, I can't come back. I'm like, this is my shot. I got to take it. So it did work out.
That's a brilliant. Do you consider that one of your high water marks?
I just consider it a high water mark of dumb luck. And like I said, even it was amazing enough that I was going to be at the Louvre, but I didn't even think that I did not picture myself filming inside the Louvre, even when I was like, yeah, I've got this plan. I'm going to go. And yeah, it worked out. I should do some outtakes or something.
That's
more people giving me weird looks.
Are you going to make some music on that Fender, or what do you feel like? Or
actually, my guitar choice these days is, I always wanted a Gibson ES 335, 339. Don't get it twisted. 339, and they're expensive, but you know, it's like the guitar I always wanted. So I wound up buying an Epiphone ES 339, and like that's the one I use, and it's like 10% of the cost of the Gibson.
Nice.
But like, can you hear that?
Why did the Gibson like speak to you? Is there a certain artist that plays it? I'm not a guitar aficionado.
I don't know. It was kind of like, once I started getting into humbuckers and appreciating humbuckers, I was
Can you define those for our audience, including me? I'm not at your level, Professor. What is a humbucker?
So okay, let's
Sorry, man.
let me get my old telly.
Sorry about that.
So these are single coils.
Yep.
And they're always known for being a little bit buzzy, but they do have this certain, you know, kind of a round tone to them. The thing is, because they're in with the phasing, you can get, you know, the buzzing to cancel out if you have more than one at a time. With the humbuckers, there's kind of technically two single coils inside,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having two pickups in one, and it
Okay.
helps to get a cleaner tone and a fatter and a fuller tone.
Okay.
It's not necessarily better or worse, just different. I find it's better for me because I don't play with a pick. So a lot of the things I used to love about the sound of a single coil were guitarists kind of exploiting that heavy plucking with a pick.
Right.
I couldn't really get with my dumb little fingernail. And I can't really get it on a humbucker either. But
So that's an interesting word. Is it actually like hum, like slow?
bucking the hum. It's like, it's one of those words you hear, but I never really thought about it because the reason they have it is because, you know, you got the two pickups that are out of phase, so it bucks the hum. So a cleaner,
perfect
sound. I mean, now because I'm plugging in direct, you know, you don't get as much hum as you would if you were plugging into an old classic amp or whatever. But that was the advantage back in the day, is less of the buzz.
I imagine you could get angry with your humbucker and add an F and call it something else. Does that ever happen? Just came to mind.
Motherfucker. All right, because I'm in Drop D and we were talking about Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
Do I dare? Do I dare?
Yes. You have the floor, Professor.
So that night at the New Yorker Festival, when I bumped into, literally, they were talking about the use of humor to get through darkness. And she said, laughter isn't funny. Laughter is serious. Laughter is agency. And I went, it just came out like it was nothing. And I was like, I think I'll write a whole song about that. But they were also talking about, and this is another reminder that I found fascinating, was that, you know, she was an editor in addition to being, you know, a brilliant writer. But she was talking about how she would deal, you know, in present day, or, you know, with her current editors, and how they would change things and change the title of her book. Like I can't remember what the title was supposed to be, but it wasn't God Bless the Child. What was the book? God, because they didn't want to call it God Bless the Child, so they call it I can't remember.
I don't think Beloved was the original title.
I don't think a lot of them, I don't think they were original titles.
Right.
And I got to search my notes because gosh, what did she want to call it? It was a really, really dark title. Anyway.
Yeah.
It was a good book.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I saw another panel, and the subject of Harper Lee, I guess, had within the year released Go Set a Watchman. So there was a little bit of conversation about that, and also the history of To Kill a Mockingbird, how technically started as Go Set a Watchman, and the editors made her, you know, or encouraged her to, you know, dig into the childhood stories of Scout and kind of abandon like the present day stuff.
Right.
So I found that, you know, kind of fascinating too. In terms,
you're taking this seriously, that you're taking notes. I mean, you're feeling like you want to be able to go back and use some of this, or
yes and no. I mean, you know, everybody's got a notepad in their pocket. So, you know, I was just jotting notes in my, you know, and a lot of times some of it is just so I won't forget, you know, even though I guess I did forget the title of what was the original title of that book? Anyway. So this is what I started to write that night in the hotel room. Toni reads the New York Times with a pencil in hand and a poet's eye. She picks through the language upon the pages patiently. She kills some words quickly, some she lets suffer. She be laughing as she slashes through others, but the laughter is not fun, it is agency. She be laughing on the regular, and then they try to edit her. All of their so-called improvements just be deleterious. They try to change the titles, they change the name, they make it worse. She takes the blame. The laughter is not fun, it is serious. She finds another editor's crime, and so she begins to fantasize about the reprimand. She say, how can y'all go and just capitalize the final word of paradise? What part of my Nobel Prize do y'all not understand? But Tony's too cool to say it. But don't confuse cool with complacency. Listen for her laughter, it is agency. Harper had an editor too. Wanted to edit her daddy. Wanted to edit the messenger too. Wanted to end it happy. Editor be like, this is not fully conceived. Don't make him who he was. Harper, you got to make him who we need him to be. Harper said he was both of these men at once. Daddy was both these men at once. He was both these men at once. He was both of these men at once. Thus the Lord said to Harper Lee, go set a trap for 2015. Go set a watchman to declare what he sees. Go set a trap for 2015. Go set a trap for 2015. Harper laughs and waits so patiently because laughter is agency.
Professor Buggy Jive, that was beautiful. I'm so glad you got to that New Yorker festival, the Toni Morrison, Harper Lee. Does that have a title?
Agency.
Agency. Beautiful.
Back when I did one-word titles.
Is it up on YouTube yet or on your Instagram?
You know, there is a video of me doing it in this actual room on buggyjive.com.
Nice.
And it includes Toni Morrison and Harper Lee quotes that I don't have the rights to, but they're in there.
Well, this has been a wonderful, thank you for sharing that song. Thank you for inviting us into your basement, your place of creativity and alchemy and amazing artistry. Thank you for sharing your creative process, talking about the great literary figures who have been part of your life. We really appreciate, we hope you'll be part of the Writers Institute whenever we can get back to in-person events and even, you know, more online things like this. We appreciate
I look forward to it. I love going to them, let alone being on the panel. But yeah, it is a treasure here in Albany. So thank you for all you do. It's awesome.
Thanks a lot, Bryan.